Let's talk about life, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the truth and consciousness, divinity. Let's talk about God. Let's talk about love.
Welcome to Spiritual Nerd, and I'm your host, Ninette Terhart. And today we are geeking out with Astrid Sparkle Girl Mueller and Lanie Smith. Welcome, ladies. And thank you so much for being on the show. So those of you just tuning in, I would love to share a little bit about both these fantastic women. Astrid's passion lies in supporting soulpreneurs, leaders, and world changers in making a big positive impact with their brands and doing it while having fun, which is very cool. Drawing from her brand magnetism savvy from years of creative leadership with Swarovski's design and marketing department of fashion jewelry, and over 15 years, wow, of entrepreneurial experience with her own design, branding, consulting, and coaching businesses, Astrid guides leaders and conscious entrepreneurs to find the perfect balance between work and play while creating the change they envision in the world. Lanie Smith is a registered art therapist, owner and founder of Integrative Art Therapy, and spiritual playmaster, self-care activist, empowerment coach for out-of-the-box healers and leaders who want to experience the juiciness of life as a work of art, using entrepreneurship as a vehicle of self-expression. So today with Astrid Sparkle Girl Mueller and Lanie Smith are sparking a movement with their Sparkle Gold Tribe to launch their books and change the world. And their hearts set to land their books under Christmas trees in this Christmas 2019, people, so that their books can start to inspire and empower people around the world. So their books, Permission to Sparkle and Be Solid Gold, channel the essence of their coaching superpowers and intuitive wisdom in this book form to help everyone find their own superpowers and genius. And I think that's fantastic. And thank you, ladies, for just having the courage to shine your light. I love that. So I would love to start, Astrid, I'll start with you. Please share with the viewers sort of your journey on what sort of unfolded to get you to do this book and what you do.
Okay, so to keep it short and to the essence, literally what I was called to do all my life is follow my heart. And I didn't do that for many years. I actually started in corporate and just doing what felt like a safe route, and I went through burnout and all kinds of things. And at some point I was like, no, I need to break out and start following my heart. And then a huge odyssey unfolded, which you summarized with my entrepreneurial journey and all those things, until I came to a full stop in 2015, totally reinventing myself again and really tuning into what lets my heart to shine and what really lights me up. And that then unfolded my whole coaching business and coaching passion. And I really found my calling by following my heart. And that's where I'm at today. And for my book, how that happened, that was actually from a spiritual coach colleague, Jean Berry. She's amazing. She's one of my inner circle people who one day said to me, as we were speaking in a mastermind, she said to me, oh my gosh, I got the title for a book that wants to be written by you, Permission to Sparkle, and that's it. And I took it and I started writing, and it unfolded, and it was a year ago, and now I'm ready to launch.
Wow, I love that. Beautiful. Lanie, share with us, please, your journey and what inspired you to write this book.
Yeah, as I was listening to Astrid, I was just thinking about all the twists and turns and the journey, and it's like I feel like I wanted to write a book since I was very young. I've always written, and that's been an instrumental part of my own creative expression. But along the way, I found painting, and then I found other forms. I've always loved dancing, so that's actually where the Solid Gold title comes from. That was a nickname for me in college. And along the way, I too, like Astrid was saying, I would lose bits and pieces of that as I put on this kind of air of professionalism, because I went into the world of art therapy. I was getting my master's. I was doing research. I was in this professional academic world where I kind of thought that I had to be this way. Meanwhile, my inner child was wanting to come out and play in all these other ways. And so I have been on a journey of integrating all of those bits and pieces and parts. And so the book itself, Be Solid Gold, is really about allowing all of those parts to be present and not to feel like you have to put them in the box and like, I have to be this person over here and I have to be this person here, but you can actually be all of your full self and let all of the pieces be there and all of the parts actually allow you to show your genius, because when you're owning all of those parts, you are your full self and you're not going to be like anyone else. So it's the tapping into that genius of who you are.
You know, it's so interesting to listen to you women chat, because I find that, you know, the ego takes us on this journey of, like you said, professionalism, corporate, all this stuff, when really what wants to play and come out is the true spiritual self, that sort of God essence, you know. And now here we are, we go through this journey and then bam, it's just so interesting. I just find that so interesting. So how did you two come together, and what's this, you know, co-creative energy happening?
That's so cool. So you want me to take this, Laney?
Take that, yes.
So we actually met in a huge coaching program that was very structural, and interestingly enough, it brought all these intuitive coaches together, but they were pretty structural, like you have to do this thing, kind of guru style, like we found the systems and blah, blah, blah. And so ironically, both Laney and I are super creative, and I also have an art background, and I actually bounced myself out of that program at some point to really realize, like, how can I do everything with fun and playfulness, and then I connected with my intuition and started doing my whole business with me being me and allowing intuition to flow through and really feeling like what really sparks me up and lights me up. And then I found my the fusion, like Laney mentioned, where I was landing it on earth then, but beginning with my inspiration, and then doing things intuitively first, but finding easy action steps and using systems when they work and building my own system. And Laney and I, in that program, we kind of really just felt like kindred spirits. That's kind of how I feel. Laney, do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who was talking about it. So when there's archetypes and such that come to mind, where there's one archetype with two heads. Can't remember what it is right now, but it was likened to me and you, Astrid, where it's like we are such kindred spirits, and there's such a creative resonance between us. I mean, it's not like we talked about our titles before, and yet this idea of sparkle and gold go together so well. Yes. And I was just drawn to Astrid. I had been only in that big program we were talking about for a very short period before she showed up. And yeah, I kind of bounced myself out of the program early as well, because I was gifted this huge awareness of like everything I have is within me, right? And I don't need to be looking outside as much for this strategy and structure. I mean, the structure is important, but first coming from the heart, it's important when it aligns. And so when I was in that program, it felt a little bit backwards for me. And so the big gift out of that was, well, first of all, Astrid, but then also this huge, just sinking in. I mean, that's what Be Solid Gold is about. It's like sinking into the reality that everything we need is right here, if we're willing to stop and listen and tune into that. So yes, I am so glad we found each other.
Yes, me too.
Now, are these books going to be available on Amazon, or is this an online ebook?
So we're going to start with, and I'm speaking we, but they're both independent books, but we have the same strategy right now. It's going to be on Amazon Kindle first, so that can reach them for Christmas. And then both Laney and I are actually thinking of doing printed versions, and those are going to be in their own kind of way, unique and sparkly. For mine, I'll have a game that is also in the works, which will be part or separately produced, but tangible pieces. And Laney, you want to share your vision?
Sure. Yeah. My current vision is for my book to actually be an interactive work of art. So it wouldn't be bound, and it would come in its beautiful own art form as a box and be able to be played with as a playbook. It would be larger than a deck of cards, but free and loose, unlike a traditional bound book. So that will come after Christmas. But for right now, we're definitely excited to get the Kindle versions.
Well, that's fun too, because it's like being a child again when you get a little box of something and you're like, ooh. Like, I don't care what anyone says, but being in my 50s and people older than that, they're like, yeah, it brings something out in oneself of that childlike nature, which I really think is sort of, the path back to our knowingness of source, really. Wouldn't you say? I mean, is that your experience with writing the books, eh?
Yes.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yes. Yeah, that's the essence of everything that a lot of people don't recognize yet, and is like a little bit belittled in some instances in our current consciousness of hustle and systems and working hard. But a lot of people are waking up to this new way of being where we realize the genius. I mean, all the big companies like Google and whatnot, they're designing their playrooms, their brilliance rooms to really be spaces that foster creativity, where we access our inner genius. And yes, it's accessing spirituality and intuition. It's all part of it.
Yes. They all go together, right? And luckily, research is showing that there's lots and lots of support now for creativity and play, and that's how we learn. So it's taking it into that experiential realm where we integrate it into our bodies, and it's not just sitting and learning in that didactic way.
Yeah.
I mean, Astrid, you must see a big difference, coming from such a corporate background. You would see where that lack of play really needs to be fortified more. Eh?
Yes, for sure. And I feel that companies are going to catch on more and more to that as they observe entrepreneurs embracing that and seeing if you want to access the brilliance of people, you really have to tailor your business model in a way that enhances the sparkle in people and creates that platform to be your best self and to be in your brilliance and genius and solid gold. Yes.
Yeah. So, Laney, let me ask you, in regards to your book, what would you say is probably the meatiest main theme that you want people to connect with?
Well, I think it's really everything we're talking about, and that is this power of play when you can actually, so the subtitle of Be Solid Gold is it's a spiritual playbook for befriending your fear and living a life you love. And so it really is a big part of playing with your own fear and playing with the stories that come up and would lead you to think that something's not possible. Because I know in the world of coaching and with my clients, there's that limiting belief of, well, I can't do that and I can't do this, and things look a certain way in reality, when the truth is that's just like this. They say the sky's the limit when really it's your belief system. And so starting like really own that the only thing holding you back is your own, you mentioned ego before, if you want to call it ego or fear or limiting belief, that really that is just an illusion. So beginning to play with that.
Would you say for yourself that you've had some intense experiences with your own fear and beliefs that have really promoted you to want to put this book out?
Absolutely, because I feel, so my art therapy career actually began overseas. I was working with war-affected youth in Uganda, and so I had a real just deep dive into what could be suffering and look like suffering. And when I walked away from that, I got really in touch with my own fears and my own limiting beliefs and all the things that would have me stuck if I didn't learn how to befriend that fear. And so for me, it's just been a continual shedding. So that was kind of the impetus. And then it continued into entrepreneurship when I started my own company. Then I was faced with that level of fear. So I feel like anytime we're going into some new territory, it has the capacity to be something that holds you back, or it's something that I like to tell clients our emotions are like children. We don't want to necessarily stick them in the trunk, but we don't want them driving the car. And so for me, it's been very important. Yeah, it's been so important to learn how to embrace it, and Astrid's been a beautiful role model for that in my life, where we've looked at how to be humorous with it, how to be playful with it, and that has been something that's been infused in the book as well. So yes, certainly have my own journey, and the book speaks to that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Astrid, would you say for yourself, some of these experiences have really gone to the heart of what you're dealing with or wanting to shed, as Laney said, that has promoted this book for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very parallel in a way, and that's also one reason why Laney and I resonate so much. But we all experience our journey with our own lens and with our own adventure, and our own desires that we want to happen in the world, right? And for me, it has been very much the angle of how can things feel light and playful and sparkly, and the title Permission to Sparkle really is my angle, I believe, and it got channeled to come to me because I played so small for so long, and I'm still catching a few pieces, and all the time it's my thing of like not giving myself permission of really claiming that center stage and my full place on this planet. And like one example was music, because you have the background in music, Ninette, which, by the way, anybody watching, listen to her. She's amazing, and I love your message through your music to the world. So for me, it was that I wanted to sing in a band for so long, forever. I'm 48 years old right now, and I just a few weeks ago, I finally realized, like, you know what? First, I said no to that forever. I thought others are better. And then I started putting my feet out there and saying, like, can I sing background with you? Can I do this? And a few weeks ago, finally, like the last piece of that fell. And it was like, no, I need to be center stage because that's what I want. I'm bringing people around me and all that stuff. That's just one example, right? It's really giving ourselves permission to fully be ourselves, no matter what anybody else says, and detaching from all of those judgments, those paradigms from society. If anything that doesn't feel good to you, you don't have to take on. It's our choice. So yeah.
It's interesting because you hear people say as you're growing up, like, well, you're unique, you're special, whatever, all that stuff. But really, putting aside the uniqueness and the specialness, only you, Laney, or you, Astrid, or myself, we, have a frequency that is unique in itself, and only we can, draw that out into the universe. So it's just interesting to me how we hear that and we're like, yeah, whatever. But then when you start to, like you said, you're shedding all this stuff, you realize, oh, it was always me all along.
Yes.
It's adorable. I just love that. So now, before we started, you had mentioned about getting the book involved here, and we're going to be wrapping up soon. So I would love to, do that. Astrid, you'd mentioned something about that. So do you want to explain a little for people?
Yeah, cool. So both Laney and I, we love to intuitively play with bibliomancy, which is basically you can open up any book that you're drawn to on any page number, close your eyes and point your finger, and you can get just the wisdom that serves you at that moment. And I would love to offer my book right now, which is here as a PDF on my screen. So Ninette, you can just say a number and we'll go there. Anything below 260, I believe, is where I'm at
So
right
from
now.
1 to 260?
Yeah.
I'm thinking 67. What?
Okay, let me scroll to that. And my cursor is going crazy with me right now. Okay, give me 1 second. 67. Scroll. 45, 60, 67. Okay. I have a big quote that pops out for me, and it says, "It doesn't matter how long your play moments are, but the more you play, the more you'll sparkle." That pops out.
Whoa, love that. Thank you.
I would love to hear what comes up for you, Ninette, as you hear that.
Quite a bit, actually. Well, honestly, I'd have to say that, I just recently got back into singing because I had lost my voice for 4 years. And at that point, I thought, well, if I don't ever sing again or whatever, it is what it is. But now that the last 2 years I've been singing solidly, there is such an element of play in there that is so freeing. And actually, since I have been allowing myself to play and not put boundaries around it, because the ego mind starts to go, well, this or that. And I'm like, no, girlfriend, you're just going to do what you want to do. I've never sung better. I've never performed better. Honestly, it's just like, and so I love that quote because it's true, but you have to really allow the self to just go unlimited, even if you feel kind of goofy.
Yeah. I love that so much. I got chills as you were speaking. I love it.
Yeah.
And I would add, especially if you feel goofy, right? Because, I was even dancing yesterday and doing this thing, and it's like that voice of my ego is so predictable, where in the very beginning of something, it's like during a warm-up period, I'll hear that voice of like, oh, this is silly, this is stupid, what are we doing? Like, until I get into the
warm-up voice.
Yeah. And it's so predictable. It's so predictable until we get into the flow. And that's so much about what both of these books are about, is like learning that isn't again, back to the driver analogy. We don't have to let that voice drive the car, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So if you want to pick a number, I think it's between 1 and 170.
Let's go with 67 again. What?
Okay. Let's see.
I love that we rock this with imperfection too, which is a big part of both of our books too, is permission for imperfection, because it really doesn't matter, right? Who cares?
Yeah.
What you said, Ninette, is I love that the self-expression piece came out so much from the quote. So the quote was, "It doesn't matter how long your play moments are, but the more you play, the more you sparkle." It's really that thing that it opens up our brilliance. Is really like when we play, that frequency, that self-expression. And when you did the giving yourself permission to just have no limits, right? Like you really did access that full brilliance that is you. And I love your story with that played out for you so powerfully, that you've never sung better because of that, right?
Oh, literally, like, yeah, night and day.
Amazing.
So wonderful experience. So to wrap this up on this end of things, what would you like to share with our listeners as sort of a final insight or a thought of wisdom?
Enjoy the journey. Really, because that was a big thing for me. It's like, first is the permission, but then it's like also enjoying the journey. Like there's no end destination. Like everything can be fun, even the bits when you find those heavy bits and you're not on the sparkle path and all that. Like once I started embracing that, then like everything opened up into something more magical. Because for a while I was going into oh, when am I done? Is this ever finished? I'm still not there, right? Like I was in that mode. So enjoy the journey and see it like an amusement park and just roll with it. And there's magic in everything.
There truly is. Yeah.
I love that reminder, Astrid. I love it so much because, we're always going to be moving on to the next creative thing. So a big piece of being able to play with things is enjoying exactly where you are. So I did finally get there. And page 67 is play with intention. And so there's a section before and after, but the one we landed on is a very interactive play prompt, which is create a shape, color, symbol, or choose a magazine image to represent your intention, how you want to feel and what you want to experience. Have fun. You can use the white space below, jump over to your altered book or journal, or dance your way to the computer if you're all tech savvy and shit. You can also do this at the start of the day or end of the day and sleep on your intentions and ask, what is my most powerful action for moving toward the life of my dreams? Jump to play with intuition for another powerful play tool to use with this question once you are done here and ready for more.
Wow.
So I would love to hear what comes up for you.
Wow. Well, when you were saying shapes and colors, I just saw like bright orange circle. I've been really resonating with orange lately. I don't know why, but I feel like the circle is just an endless, obviously, this sort of movement. And I'm really into the Course in Miracles right now, and it does feel like a sort of a holographic unwinding of my mind that is occurring over this last year and a half. And it's almost like musical frequency wrapping around as I move through this journey. And so when you said that, I was like, orange circle, just, yeah, like a big orange julep.
I love that. And because we were talking about just before this about enjoying the process, and it's like things are never ending.
Yeah.
There's birth and death, and it's continuously going around and repeating. So I love the.
And then when you said dance over to the computer, and something came to mind where, a lot of people don't allow themselves to just be silly within their own space. Like, I think they feel like, well, I need to share that with somebody else. And if I'm not, then it's silly. But the more that I have, with your comment, Astrid, from the book, given myself permission to, unlimited, you start to want to just enjoy your own silliness. And whether there's someone there or not, it doesn't really matter, because you're the one feeling it. Yes. And so to me, that's a very precious thing, I think, to really enjoy, I am going to dance over to the computer right now because I want to.
Exactly.
You probably feel better doing that.
Yes.
Permission
to be silly. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Permission to be silly. Well, Laney, so please share with us, or maybe some last sort of words of wisdom for our listeners that you might want to share.
Well, because you're talking about dancing and being silly and the permission and all of that, I really invite listeners to think about ways they can bring that playfulness to what they're already doing. I mean, even in the writing of this book, I know Astrid's very privy to this process for me, but I was writing it from the pool, or I was dancing while sitting in restaurants. Every time I went into it, because it's my first book. So of course my ego would show up and say, you can't really write this. You can't really, it's just there. And so as you're doing things that you want to do, and yet your mind is telling you don't want to do it or you can't do it, I really invite people to think about ways that they can play with it and enjoy the thing. It's like, I tend to think of it as bundling it with joy. So whatever it is that you're doing, there's always an invitation to make it more playful.
Truly there is, and well said. Well, ladies, I want to thank you so much for being on the show and just sharing your light and your experiences. Really, that's where this wisdom comes from. And now, Astrid, you mentioned something about a website. You're going to...
Yes, we're going to put up a website in these days, and when you see this, it shall be live. It's called besparklegold.com, and we'll have access to our launch party, badass launch party, and all our tribe and our books, and you'll get more info there.
Okay, well, ladies, thank you again very much, and I wish you all the best with your books and your revealing truth to people. I think it's very important at this time. There's definitely a new wave of awakening that we're experiencing, and I feel like we're on the cusp of that. Like, we're kind of like the pioneers that are kind of like,
yes,
in a big way. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us and for what you're doing.
Yes, exactly.
I'm having fun. Go team, go! Yeah, I love that.
Thank
you so much, Matt.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I want to thank Astrid Sparkle Girl Mueller and Lanie Smith for their time and energy today on Spiritual Nerd. That was awesome. I had a lot of fun. Awesome work. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure the rest of the world will too. This Christmas 2019, look out for their books. Wonderful. Thank you, guys. And again, I look forward to the next time when we be geeking out with you.
Let's talk about life, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the truth